Hypnotherapy is a focused state of attention. You ever driven somewhere, got to your destination, not remembered the journey? That's hypnosis. Been watching TV, zoned out, lost track of time, whatever you were watching, finished, you thought, wow, where did all that time go? I'm ready for bed. That's hypnosis.
Hey guys, welcome back to another show of
Men Suffer in Silence.
We got another good show for you today.
Yes, we do.
We got a special guest. Roscoe, kick it off for us.
All right, well, today we got Mr. Mark Stubbles in the building with us.
Welcome.
And he's going to, matter of fact, let me let him tell you what he does.
Welcome, Mr. Mark.
Thank you for coming.
I'm a hypnotherapist. I help people with anxiety and complex trauma, inner child issues. And yeah, I've written 4 books, and I have several courses on Udemy. Inner child healing, hypnosis practitioner, hypnotic conversations, stop blushing with NLP and hypnosis. I have lots of content all over the place.
Wow, that sounds like a lot.
Nice.
So let's just jump right into it, Mark. We primarily deal with men who suffer in silence, hence the name of our show. So when many men feel uncomfortable with traditional talk therapy, how is your process different from someone who has difficulty opening up?
Hypnotherapy, the person doesn't need to tell me anything at all for hypnotherapy to be successful. The more a person can tell me, the more successful hypnotherapy will be. I like to use a conversational hypnosis style, so that often requires a conversation. But we can also work content free using the person's unconscious or subconscious mind to resolve their issues. And your unconscious mind or your subconscious, it's always listening, always looking to protect you and keep you safe. It knows where you carry any blockages, anything that might be keeping you stuck. So if the person doesn't want to tell me anything, they really don't have to.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Well then, how can hypnotherapy specifically address emotional suppression in men, such as like breaking down barriers and to vulnerability?
It's really where inner child healing hypnotherapy is most successful. As children, we all become shamed out of our feelings. When we start school, we get told to shut up, sit down, pay attention. For a boy to be in that kind of environment, it's not natural for any child to be in that kind of environment, but for a boy, it's particularly traumatic, I suppose you could say. So they become shamed out of their emotions. They learn to suppress their emotions. Inner child work, it's not about blaming parents or having a victim mentality. It's about becoming a good enough parent to yourself, giving yourself unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. And once you do that, you're able to overcome, emotions that you may have suppressed. Also, if people go to my website, markstubbles.com, they can download 2 free workbooks. One of the workbooks, the anxiety and depression workbook, has an exercise which will reconnect people to their emotions. Emotions are like warning lights on your car dashboard. They're neither right or wrong. They're just to let you know that something's wrong, that you need to make some changes or adjustments in your life.
Gotcha. And just to let you know, we're gonna list all of your information in the description below so everyone can see it. How does hypnotherapy target the subconscious mind to reframe limiting beliefs like men really don't need to show weakness?
It's a great question. there's a lot of discussion in hypnotherapy forums and things about whether the subconscious, even exists. I think it was Sigmund Freud that come up with the idea of the subconscious, and he said that's where all your worst bits are. Come up with the iceberg model. At the top of the iceberg is, your conscious thoughts and beliefs, and below that you get the subconscious and the id, I think. So there's a lot of hypnotherapists that consider that to be an outdated model. But I don't know if I agree with that or not. I just know that hypnotherapy works. And again, going back to childhood, we can become shamed out of feelings and behaviors. We can, learn that, like, big boys don't cry, boys shouldn't show vulnerability, etc. So through doing inner child work, you can start to overcome those kind of beliefs. Does that
make sense?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That answers the questions very well. My concern is about a lifetime of being told to man up. So you kind of addressed that, but you're saying hypnosis can kind of take away that deep conditioning that we've been told that forever. Man up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Hypnosis and inner child work can be very effective at overcoming that kind of conditioning. And yeah, it's about, as I said, it's about becoming a good enough parent to yourself. And again, going back to childhood, many children take on family roles as a way to matter within the family unit. Maybe they're pushed to do well at sports or something. They're told, to be a man, to man up. In that regard, they're pushed into living by other people's standards as a way to receive love and acceptance. So inner child healing hypnotherapy can allow someone to connect with their authentic self and live life on their terms.
Do you feel as though that most of the adult issues come from childhood?
Yeah, I would say most adult issues come from childhood. A man called John Bradshaw, he was a pioneer of inner child work. He estimated that something like 85% of people don't have what are known as good enough parents. A good enough parent provides unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. The child's going to know that they'll get their needs met no matter what. And if we don't grow up with that, as I said, we take on family roles, we lose our authentic selves. We become disconnected from our authentic selves.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
You break it down like that.
Well, just a quick question. How did you get into this, Mark? It seems such a specific field. How did you get in? What drew you into this field?
I really suffered in silence. I grew up with a very dysfunctional family, which caused me to have all kinds of issues with anxiety, relationships, how I related to other people and myself. I was very insecure. I got married very young to the wrong woman. And because I'd grown up with so much dysfunction, I'd learned to interact with people in the same manner as which I'd grown up. So she said I was mentally and emotionally abusive. The relationship lasted about 7 years. When we finally got divorced, it cost me cost me everything. And then she wanted to leave the country with my child. That was a 4-year court battle, which again cost me a lot of money I didn't have. So yeah, I had a lot of PTSD from that. I ended up living back with my grandparents, and they deteriorated, became more and more ill. And then, other family members started getting involved in the situation. And I just started to see how messed up they were. And, by witnessing the way that other members of the family carried on, I kind of realized that maybe my ex-wife was right and I was mentally and emotionally abusive, not because I intended to be, just because I didn't know any better, and it caused me all damage. So yeah, going back to the inner child and doing the inner child work was how I overcame that, how I started to feel more confident and more able to relate to people.
Wow, so you suffered in silence as well.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said, yep.
It seems to be a universal thing, I believe.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So if the main issue is like lack of emotional awareness, how can hypnotherapy help someone learn to even identify what they're feeling?
Hypnotherapy is a focused state of attention. You ever driven somewhere, got to your destination, not remembered the journey? That's hypnosis. Been watching TV, zoned out, lost track of time, whatever you were watching, finished, you thought, wow, where did all that time go? I'm ready for bed. That's hypnosis. So because it's a focused state of attention, it contains an element of mindfulness, and it allows you to disconnect from your thoughts and feelings, to see your thoughts and feelings as separate from yourself. Also, it can be used to de-traumatize traumatic memories. So again, the person doesn't even need to remember the memory to de-traumatize it. And they certainly don't need to relive it, because we can use something called double dissociation to enable them to process the memory, to move it from the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, to the thinking part of the brain. And finally, your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So just by imagining yourself the way you want to be, you actually create new neural pathways in your brain. The more you imagine yourself that way, the stronger those neural pathways become.
Wow. You always hear this type of stuff, like if you can imagine it, you can become it. But that's a real medical thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
What would you say on far as like focusing?
Sorry?
What would you say as far as helping people to focus?
Yeah, the more, as I said, it's a focused state of attention. So the more you take time to focus, the easier it becomes to focus. Just like with relaxation, the more you take time to relax, the easier it becomes to relax. And going back to the inner child, when a child grows up with dysfunction and experiences trauma, the emotional part of the brain actually increases in size, and the thinking part of the brain decreases in size. So by having a regular relaxation practice, you can actually start to re-regulate the brain, shrink the size of the amygdala, increase the size of the neocortex, leading to more considered reactions and better emotional regulation.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
So are there any potential challenges or side effects when using hypnotherapy?
No.
Wow.
No,
Oh, that's good.
hypnotherapy,
It's all natural.
it's a perfectly natural state. So there's really there's really nothing to worry about, when it comes to hypnosis. There's lots of myths about, people being stuck in hypnosis or, things like that, but it's nothing that I've ever heard of happening. No, there are no dangers.
Okay, that's great. We watch so many movies and television shows, and it just makes you wonder, are you going to be stuck barking like a dog or something?
Right. Is it still the old school little string and ding dong ding?
No, it's nothing. It's nothing like the movies. I like to use a lot of conversational hypnosis. If a person is open to talking, they might leave the session feeling like we've just had a chat. They won't necessarily experience a deep state of trance, but generally clients they expect to experience what you'd consider traditional hypnosis. So, then they would close their eyes and relax into that hypnotic state. But yeah, that doesn't even need to happen for hypnosis to occur.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
All right. So how can a family or partners support a man undergoing hypnotherapy for suffering in silence? How can your surrounding circle help you out with that?
Help support you. That's a good question.
That's a great question. There's not really, I don't really feel that a person would need any specific support just because they're coming to hypnotherapy. But they could certainly support them, on their journey to recovery from PTSD or complex trauma, anxiety, just by being calm, being emotionally regulated. If someone is calm and regulated, they can help the other person to co-regulate their own emotions. Your emotional state transmits. So, yeah, that's one way someone could support a person suffering with trauma or anxiety by co-regulating their emotions.
I just feel like, Mark, there's somebody out there that woman may not be as supportive of him going to get any sort of therapy or any sort of help because she feels like, you can come talk to me or man up.
Absolutely.
Could that be counterproductive when it happens?
Not just with men, but with women too, and people can also feel insecure in the relationship. They can be like, well, if you're doing this journey of self-growth, then you might outgrow me and leave me. I don't want to break up any relationships, but I'd say if you're with someone like that, it's probably not healthy anyway.
This is true.
True.
This is true, but we suffer in silence and we stick in there.
Well, Mark, I'm pretty sure you have, but you've treated men with similar issues successfully. Can you share any anonymized examples of how this has helped and some of the breakthroughs you've had with men that suffer in silence from these issues?
Yeah, a lot of my clients are women. Therapy is just more popular with women, I think. But some of the men I've worked with, I've helped men with all sorts of anxiety issues, helped a client overcome a very traumatic experience during the COVID times when his wife was suffering with an illness, and I helped him deal with the grief and the PTSD that he experienced from that. I don't know. Does that answer your question, or do you have anything
that's
more?
fine. No, perfectly fine, because I know you can't go into people's personal issues. The question is then, because you mentioned just now that you get a lot more women than men, and our show is based upon men that suffer in silence, and that's why we want to get medical professionals like yourself to explain to men that it's okay to seek help. If you had any words of like encouragement or just knowledge to give a man like that's suffering to make him feel okay with doing this.
Yeah, when I first started out on my healing journey, I felt like I didn't want to talk to anyone about my problems. I didn't want to get any help. I felt it was a weakness to seek help. And with counseling, I tried counseling for a bit, and I didn't get on well with the counselor. It was a male counselor, male therapist. I didn't feel he was very well suited to men's issues. Let's put it that way. It was when I was in the middle of my divorce, and I felt very much like I was being sort of blamed for the situation. I would say that it's not a weakness to seek therapy. It's actually a strength. Going back to my family, decent people deal with their issues, and cowards project them on to everyone else, even the children that they're supposed to be taking care of. So it's not a weakness. If you don't deal with it, you're going to be projecting it onto other people. You're going to be causing issues for other people, even your own kids. So just deal with it.
Right. So do you feel like most people need therapy?
I would say, the vast majority of people need therapy. People will either act out or they'll act in to suppress what's known as toxic shame. If you don't have good enough parents, you're going to develop toxic shame. And you can act in via, addictions, porn addiction, alcohol addiction, whatever, or you can act out by becoming narcissistic, abusive, flying into rages. So most people are either acting out or acting in to try and suppress their toxic shame, to try and suppress their trauma. And when you're aware of it, you can really easily spot it in pretty much everyone.
Well, quick question for you here. There's a lot of medication on the market, and even cannabis or just any type of medical
Anxiety medicine.
anxiety medicines, ADHD medicines, all these other things. How do you feel? Is that something people should be looking into, or just you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
I would say it's not a long-term solution. It should be, medication can be beneficial. For some people, for very few people, it's probably quite necessary, but those people have probably they've been hypnotized by their doctor or whatever to get worse. But yeah, it can be necessary and it can be beneficial, but it's not a long-term solution. Like it should be done in conjunction with therapy, preferably hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy can provide results much quicker than standard talk therapy. Some studies have shown that we can do in 3 sessions of hypnotherapy what 30 years of talk therapy can do. I don't know how reliable those studies are, but they're certainly out there.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, Mark, definitely thank you, man. You've been great. It's a lot of information we've gotten here from you. Please shoot out your information to us right now, how to reach you, how our guests and followers can get information from you and download your information. We're going to list everything in our description, but let them hear directly from you. How can they reach out to you?
People can find me via my website, which is markstubbles.com. They can also find me on YouTube, Mark Stubbles, or Anxiety Hypnotherapist. Should bring up my channel. I have a Substack, markstubbles.substack.com, and I have a Facebook group called Inner Child Healing, Breaking Free from CPTSD, and all my other social media links are available on my website.
Perfect. And like I said, we're going to list it in our description below. Mark, we thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you, Mark.
We're all about helping people, and they need people like you so we can all get better.
Absolutely. Yeah, because men suffer in silence.
Yes, they do.
I'm not saying that women don't either, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah, everyone suffers. Suffering is the human experience. But yes, absolutely. There's no need for anyone to suffer in silence.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Mark.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Roscoe Squeezo.
Lucky let him know.
Your boy Rich B.
Until next time, where men suffer in silence.
Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Mark, you've been